meetings before, so that's cool. Waving the light. Cool. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, it is 5:30. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I have anything you'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Okay. Moving on to public comments. Anybody have any public comments that other than what's going to be talked about in the public hearings? Okay. Moving on to special activities. We have the Warren County Court presentation. We're honored to have Judge Gary Loxley and Judge Robert Fisher here to talk about the court's year in review. Judge, nice to see you.
That's wonderful. Good to see you and good to see everybody. Thanks for having us out here again this year. It's been 4 years since we were here. We usually try to make our round robins every other year, but among other things, we were affected by the pandemic. So it's the first time we've been out here since 2018. We have a brief presentation. I'll take the first half of it, and then my colleague, Judge Fisher, will take the second half. That's us. Next slide. I have the northern half of Warren County that's not covered by the Franklin Municipal Court and the Lebanon Municipal Court. And my colleague, Judge Fisher, has the southern half of the county, which is we call the Area 2 docket, which is everything except for Mason Municipal Court's jurisdiction and certainly Lebanon Municipal Court's jurisdiction. So even though we're called the Warren County Court, we don't cover all of Warren County. It's kind of a misnomer. But we have the 8 townships, 10 villages, and municipalities, including Clear Creek Township in our jurisdiction. This is our staff. Have a little bit of a change. It's not worthy of putting it on the slide because it just recently happened, and that is Michaela Simmons in our probation department, far right at the bottom. Her last day was last Wednesday. So we're in the process of interviewing individuals to replace Michaela. She has big shoes to fill. We'll be busy in our court Wednesday afternoon making that happen. And also Jessica Coffey, our assignment commissioner, who's been with the court for 17 years, provided her notice last Thursday. She's going to be moving on to bigger and better things. So those are bigger shoes to fill than our probation clerk. But I'm sure we'll do just fine. We work very closely with the deputy clerks of court. There are 10 deputy clerks in our court, in addition to our court staff seen on this slide. Jim Space hires those individuals. But we work side by side, and we take care of the business of the county court. Here are the number of cases that we've seen last year and then compared to 2019. Wanted to go to a pre-pandemic number to give you a better snapshot of what's going on. The traffic citations were down. A couple of criminal cases, as you can see, were down a little bit in 2021. We're hoping to ramp back up to where we were pre-pandemic. Law enforcement is out there writing tickets as best they can and doing their job for the criminal and the traffic side. So I'm sure we'll be back to where we need to be here sometime soon. But it's funny, if you look at the historical numbers in the county court, and you go back maybe 2007, even earlier, the numbers were really high. But it's like a roller coaster. Sometimes they'll be low, sometimes they'll be high, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. But we're hoping that the pandemic numbers will get back to where we were before that. Current issues, this is just the initial slide, and then Judge Fisher will take over on remaining issues. Bail reform. Bail reform's been there for a number of years. We talked about it when we were here last in 2018. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court here in Ohio, Justice O'Connor, sat on, I think she was co-chair actually of a national committee, and took some ideas back here to Ohio on bail reform. She established her own commission. They prepared and submitted a report back in 2017, and there were recommendations and recommended changes, some of which came to be. One, for example, was a change in the criminal rule. I think everybody in this room is probably familiar with it. That criminal rule says judges are not to consider anything except whether or not a defendant's going to show up at each and every stage of the proceedings. In other words, you cannot consider public safety. There's a Supreme Court case in January of this year to that effect. Well, the legislature got a hold of that and said, wait a minute here, we don't think this is such a good idea. Let's let the public decide. So that's going to be an issue on the ballot in November for all of Ohioans to make a decision on whether or not to have a constitutional amendment to the Ohio Constitution saying you can consider public safety, Mr. Judge, Mrs. Judge, in determining bail or bond for somebody charged with an offense. So more to follow on that. Veterans Court docket is my last slide. Established that back in 2015. We were certified that same year. We were recertified back in 2020, so our current certification doesn't expire until next year. We have now 17 currently enrolled. We've graduated 19. We have another graduation coming up with 3 of our graduates on September the 7th. It's an open court. Anybody's welcome to be there at 10 o'clock in the Warren County courtroom. We meet twice a month, and I think the individuals here, we briefed before on what this is all about. Judge Steep, my colleague over at the Common Pleas Court, he has established his own Veterans Treatment Court in 2018, and then through an MOU with Franklin, Lebanon, and Mason Municipal Courts, they identify their veterans and send them to us in the Veterans Court that we have in the Warren County Court, so that we can hopefully rehabilitate those veterans, those people who found their way into the criminal justice system. They need a little bit of a hand to get back up on the wagon so that they won't come into our system or any other system ever again. That's the purpose of the program. It's one of the most enjoyable things I do, and I think it's worthy of this slide. And subject to your questions, that concludes my presentation.
Have any questions?
Any questions?
Anybody out there have any questions?
Any questions?
Judge?
Apparently not. They're waiting for that. Thank you, Judge.
I don't want to underestimate the importance of the graduations, especially for veterans. Like it is a big deal. Judge Loxley has had members from the Ohio Supreme Court come down to be a part of that. They're all big speakers. It is a big deal. So September 7th. September 7th, if you can't make it, it is one of the important things that our court does. Some of the other current issues, when we order somebody to complete a drug and alcohol assessment, it often takes them upwards of 2 to 3 months to get it done, because when they leave our courtroom, the last thing on their mind is their benefits. They go to the probation department, then they leave, they walk out, and they forget just about everything that we said. The Warren Clinton County Joint Mental Health Board received a grant in order to hire someone to be in the courthouse to do those assessments before the individual leaves. This saves us 2 to 3 months of waiting, which gives someone, the individual, if they need treatment, 2 to 3 months of earlier treatment than they would have had they just walked out. We've already seen a huge benefit. This started in April in our court. We were one of the first courts in the county to do it. This is throughout the county. DeCoach is the organization that is completing those assessments. For the individuals who are completing the assessments and going into treatment, it could be life-saving, getting them into the drug and alcohol treatment early so that they can complete the treatment early as well. The case management system transition continues. We switched in 2015 to Pioneer Benchmark. While we've had some issues, there have been, over the last 2 years anyway, some significant improvement, particularly in the financials. So we're grateful for the improvement. While there's still bugs, anyone who does anything with technology will understand. If you were just stating that this sometimes works when people in the legal field touch it. But we have, we're working through the bugs, and like I said, some of these big things are taking place, have already fixed. The Warren County Sheriff's Office, the jail was dedicated last October. The sheriffs moved out of the building that we shared with them, which provided us the opportunity to expand into that side. The expansion into that side has been so beneficial to our court staff. I believe it was mentioned that your new police department, the current police department is much smaller than what the new building is going to be. Our 5-person probation staff was in a room smaller than one of the offices that they have right now. They all have their own separate offices. So that it was really nice that we were able to expand into there. We are looking at, with the county commissioners, potential new building. We hope to be able to give a report on that the next time that we are here.
Very good.
Let's see here, the jazz update. That is our recording system. We are going to dive into the 21st century with our recording system. We're updating it so that we can do all of the things that we needed to do through the pandemic, including potentially having witnesses from Iowa or New York to be able to testify without having to come in. So we're going to do everything we can to have the technology update that we should have in our courtroom. It's not going to mean that jurors can be home and sit and Zoom in. So we will still need jurors showing up at our courthouse. Our success docket, while Judge Loxley has the veterans docket, I have a mental health docket. I call it the success docket. We established that at the same time as the Veterans Court on April 1st of 2015. We had 4 graduates earlier this year. We're not anticipating any more graduates before the end of this calendar year. But it's really helping individuals get back on their feet, get the treatment that they need, and continue the treatment. In fact, we had one individual that appreciated the program enough that she has come back to sit in to help some of the others who are going through the program right now. We have another individual who graduated earlier this year. He is helping the court in Clinton County to start their mental health docket. So we're seeing the ripple effect from the graduates already. Some of the community outreach, a lot of it over the past couple of years has unfortunately been via Zoom, but Judge Loxley, through his many services, through his veterans associations, has been able to go to high schools for the graduations, to have the junior ROTC program, watch those graduates. I believe he came back and said someone had scholarships to the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, and I think something else.
Really impressive.
Yeah, some very impressive individuals. But Judge Loxley has been able to do that. We have had some 8th graders come in who participate in mock trials. It's through homeschool groups. Classical Conversations is a group. There are several of them around the area. The Westchester Kettering, Lebanon has a large program. I wish I could remember all the others. But what we do is we allow these 8th graders who have worked really hard to develop their skills to come into our court and actually complete their mock trial at the court. It is a competition between schools. It's one group, Classical Conversation, but the individual schools coming through. It has been a lot of fun watching these kids. Some of them I'm keeping their names for when they graduate law school. I will certainly be following them. But we have had a lot of great fun with that, as well as announcing at different things like high school football. So that's pretty much our community outreach. We thank you all very much for your time. As Judge Loxley said, we're pretty much done unless you have any questions.
I have a comment. It's a student government class.
Yes, sir.
Please make sure you continue that. I have a sophomore high school, and they need all the real-world input on government they can get. Right?
We are fortunate beneficiaries of that class because it's the teacher who leads the program. She contacts the county-wide government officials and says, okay, we're coming out on this date, and the kids sign up. So we are actually the benefit of whoever that teacher is in that program. We have told other schools, hey, you know, this teacher does this, feel free to come out, because we love having kids come to the court, but she's the only one. So we're grateful for her doing that. Anyone is welcome. We are an open court, so we appreciate anyone and everyone coming in, seeing what's going on in the court, seeing what's going on in your county. Thank you for bringing
Thanks,
that.
Judge.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Loxley. Thank you, gentlemen.
It's good to see you all again. All right, take care.
You all good day.
Thanks again. Okay. Next item under special activities, we have a resolution 1580, which is a resolution to approve modifier design and zone change application for John Stafford at 9850 Gregory Franklin Road. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to recess the regular meeting and open the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. So Jeffrey, all right, you would get us started here.
All right, so it's only 5:45. We should be done by dinner. That should be fun. All right, so ultimately what we're doing this evening, the request is for John Stafford, Staff Co. Construction Agent for Don't Wait LLC, to amend the zoning resolution map for a total of 9.64 acres, parcels identified by 9850 Pickering Franklin or Wood Road, parcel number 0415101009, account 0615037. Request is located in sections 15 and 16, Town 2, Range 5, Pickering Township. Classification is from suburban residential. Request is to go to non-residential planned use development. So, let's look and see what we're talking about this evening. The hatched parcel is the parcel under consideration. Look down and look at this as a greater chunk. It's actually split by the county line, this being the Montgomery County line. So part of the property is in Clear Creek Township, part is in Montgomery County. We're only going to discuss the section that's in Clear Creek Township. This is the concept plan that was submitted, showing approximately 24 new construction of buildings, with each having 7 units, so 168 units to store RVs and boats exclusively on the site. This is the first submitted open space plan. As you see, the storm retention, water management elements actually in Montgomery County. This additional green space, but we will judge the property for green space in Clear Creek Township. This is the updated open space plan. It's actually now showing open space along the southern boundary in between the units and modification of the front area. So, with that being said, look at the land use plan for which we're judging the request by. The area of request is the northwestern corner of the township, an area that's not anticipated to have sanitary sewer. It's an area that along our land use plan we anticipated that property to be on a collector urban. When it was updated in the thoroughfare plan in 2019, it was identified as a local road. So things changed to go through plans. That's where we stand today. We look at the planning areas. It was put into planning area 1, though it is different from the planning area 1 that we typically deal with in the corner of State Route 48 and 73 area. It is an area that the northern tier commitment exists in provision of sanitary sewer. At some point, the area is either substantially developed or already approval commitment for future development has taken place. Thus, the future character of the northern tier is already largely established as the overriding factor of what a planning area 1 would be for our land use plan. The land use plan just identified the property as suburban residential. There was discussion at the time of the Austin Road interchange, if we participate in that project. And at that point in time, we felt that that was too far north and may not occur, and that we would judge those properties at the time that they would come forward. So we locked them into a suburban residential classification. So if we look at the property, we're looking at Clear Creek Township properties at this point in time in zone classifications. So this parcel is actually owned by the applicant, but not part of the request. There's suburban residential to the north. To the south, we have suburban residential and residential R1, and then it's bound on the east side by I-75. Looking to the west across the street is Franklin Township, and Franklin Township has a designation of R1B for the properties. It's a residential classification. And then if we look to the north, Michael Township's map, we have mixed classifications of an R8, which is a vacant land and mobile home development. They also then have an area for agriculture and a special use planning development area. So a lot of things going on north of the jurisdiction, but south of our jurisdiction, with residential activity. So again, looking at the site plan, just a couple things to bring to attention. If we start looking at how much acreage is used for different uses, just as a concept, obviously if we go to a preliminary, you have more detail, but just to get an understanding about what we're talking about. Again, 9.64 acres. Of that, 2.5 acres is proposed to be in existing buildings, or proposed buildings. The existing structure, this is the existing barn on the property. At this point in the concept, we're not sure if it's going to evolve into an office, it's going to evolve into additional Storage, another use that's not clear, so that's something that if we move forward, we'd ask for clarification on the use of that structure. The impervious surface, so all of the asphalt and the structures coming together is using a total of 6.82 acres out of 9.46 of something that's going to be impervious. So if we look at a floor area ratio, just see how much the buildings have taken up. Typically, you're looking at that. A 1 is total site. This is a 2.7, so basically a quarter of the property is in buildings based upon what we talked about before. That's probably redundant, but that's why we have a staff report, so we have multiple things to say. All right, so if we're looking at the open space, the initial submittal of the open space showed 27%, but it had a 0.6 acre tract that I believe was credit coming from the retention area to the north. So when staff did a recalculation, and also taking out open space that was shown in the road right of way, this submittal is showing 19% of the required 25% minimum. The updated drawing has, again, the information that's talked about earlier. We have open space on the south, and we have open space in between. There's approximately an acre of additional open space added. Of that, typically when you start looking at the functionality of the open space, is it isolated, is it usable, and the like, typically you're not getting credit in between buildings because it doesn't serve a purpose. That's approximately a half acre of that acreage. To the south is another half acre. So depending on which way you come about, they're either approximately 23% or 29% with this drawing of the required 25. Comes an interpretation of classification limits.
And that's 29% of what now?
29% open space of the total acreage. If we took everything they showed on this map that's colored the green to be considered truly open space and achievable for the minimums of those zoning districts.
And they need 25%.
They need 25% of the gross. All right, so we started looking at what this property could be if it was not rezoned. Ultimately, we have a discussion that occurs with what's net density plan. If you're in residential, we like to look and see how many lots are we going to get and the like. When we're comparing residential lots and commercial use, ultimately we're going to go back to what its current use could be. They didn't actually provide a drawing. We had a discussion, do they want to design a subdivision for something that they're anticipating going commercial. So ultimately I said, let's do the math. So we did the math, 17 lots could exist if they had sanitary sewer. They could go down to 8 lots if they were on-site disposal. So that's what you're looking at. So 8 or 17 or the current request or modification of the request on the seat. So just show you some of the buildings that were submitted. There's floor plan and slide elevation. This is the building elevation with the garage doors and metal associated with that. So when this went before Warren County Regional Planning, it was denial by that recommendation body, but they then added with the recommendation, if yourselves fit to approve, then they said, let's establish 6 conditions. Well, I looked over the 6 conditions, and they grabbed these from other jurisdictions that don't 100% apply to what we're doing. So if this is something that you desire, I have established 14 boilerplate conditions that would be appropriate. If that's something you want to discuss at that future point in time, I'll bring them up on the board and we can further discuss here. When the zoning commission looked at it, they felt that it was not appropriate based upon the intensity that was occurring, and ultimately, since both Clear Creek Township, Franklin Township were residential, and master plan required it to be, or suggested it to remain residential, that ultimately that is where they wanted it to remain. I did want to say, I spoke with Miami Township zoning and the planning department just about what processes would go through since we have a split jurisdiction. It's always nice to talk with the adjoining neighbors and then what you would require and how things would go. Since only the open space and the storm management is in their jurisdiction, they would not require a zoning change if we were to approve the request. We would just make sure that the Montgomery County Sanitation Engineer did their review along with any other entities to make sure about those calculations coordinated with the Warren County offices. So With that being said, you have this evening a resolution 5380 in front of you that, as drafted, is to approve, deny, and modify denial recommendation from the Zoning Commission. I can answer questions for the applicant.
The 23 versus 29 does not include the Montgomery County piece?
Correct, it's all the
Just-
calculations for Clay Creek Township.
Okay.
And the 29%, that includes between the buildings.
Correct, I can go back to that.
I thought it was just the green.
Well, there's green between buildings.
Yeah, so they added, initially, I'll flip back to the previous note. This dark green was their open space plan, which they did not identify, so we weren't sure if this was impervious surface, pervious surface, just ground. They didn't want to have a classification, and nothing along the southern boundary. When they did their update, they said, okay, the southern boundary, we feel is a buffer that we want to maintain with the southern property line, and then since there was a calculation of taking some out of the road right of way, and where can we gain acreage, and ultimately, instead of losing buildings, it was, let's identify what we had not identified before as open space. And there's a provision in the zoning resolution looking at open space, wanting it to actually be functional and usable. Typically, when you're looking at commercial, you're looking at how is it impacting the surrounding property or the tenants, users of the property. You know, in residential, you're looking, oh, there's going to be a pond, or there are going to be trails, pathways, you know, those separations. This being internal, it becomes a judgment call. First of all, is this evening's request, is it appropriate for the property to change classification? If so, then we will address these issues as stage 2.
Okay. All right. Useless.
Okay.
And we have some spokespeople here from the applicant.
Yeah. I'll turn it over to them. I'll flip to the slide. You guys are ready? Go ahead. Identify who you are and start speaking to them.
Hi, I'm Doug Cash, 674 Grandwood Court in Smithville. I'm a partner with John Stafford in Belt Wait. John has built several of these facilities in Clark County and has been very successful with them. I can answer any questions you guys have. If I can't, they can.
Okay. All right. So as this is now, as a buffer between the properties to the north, the road, Woods Road, I see you have some green space there. What's the design for the buffering of that? I mean, is there a mound there, or
It'll
trees
be
on top of the mound?
Correct.
I guess we're not really doing height at this time, are we?
That's truly something that would be stage 2, but it's always a good discussion at a stage 1 to see what the ideas are, but it would be finalized at a 2 if we can move forward.
That is our plan, is to build a mound and put trees on top of that.
So on the east side, the Woods Road side, how much room do you have in there between your building and the actual road right of way? Approximately.
You said between the building and the road right away?
Yeah.
I want to say, forget what the setback is, it's deeper than the setback.
Setback 75 feet, I believe.
Yeah, so it's 75 feet to the existing building, or
50 feet?
40-foot building setback is what I'm seeing, but then there's 71 feet to the nearest building.
On your site plan, you have building, this building right here. My cursor keeps disappearing. So that building right behind Chief's Head is specified to be at the 50-foot minimum setback.
Which is
Maybe I
the closest
misunderstood
one to
what you're
the
saying.
road.
Did
Yeah.
you meant on, not on the highway side?
No, the east side.
East side on Wood Road.
Wood Road side.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
one building that sits by itself.
Yeah, that is 50. It's right at 50.
Okay.
Mr. Wade, you were wanting the east side of Wood, Clear Creek, Franklin Road. So their road frontage along Clear Creek, Franklin was the distance not off of I-75, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I...
Yeah, now I'm confused.
But I'm looking for the mounds, the footage they have, and what kind of mound can they put in there if they...
I get that part, you're talking about, look at this one, you're talking about here, right?
Yeah, where...
That's wood. Yeah. 75's here, okay.
East side of
Wood Road.
Yeah, so it's the western side of their property.
Right.
But it's the east side of the road.
No, when they said individual buildings, I'm looking back that way. I think that's what Jeff was thinking.
Great.
And I think the idea too, even along the north side, is the pond isn't specifically sized to the finite detail. But I think we want to keep as much vegetation along the north property line for that buffer. And then wherever mounding would be needed, to minimize the impact of disturbed area would be a goal, depending on how much stormwater is needed.
And again, that's the buffer between the development that's there and Minor Township.
And even as it extends, sure, whatever's.
And approximately how wide is that?
What, the length or the, or you said wide?
The difference between your pond and down where your buildings are too, and that property.
It's about 35 feet. But we can move that certainly closer to the storage units. I mean, in fact,
Try to visualize
that's what
what
we
type
do
of
any,
protection you're gonna be able to
that would be
put in.
ideal anyway, so we could skip, because the terrain through there, if it's on a slope or whatnot, you wanna make sure you utilize the land as much as you can, but we wanna hug the development as much as possible, so it doesn't impact any adjacent neighbors.
It's easier to see if you zoom in on the newer one. The dashes are the setback. You see the dashes are, that represents all the setback.
What are your plans on timing of the buildings? Are you starting with 4, starting with 20, or
Starting with 6.
six buildings?
Yes. Our plan is to have the project built out in 5 years.
7 units a building?
7 per building, correct.
So you will not have any outdoor storage.
None whatsoever.
Everything will be inside. And that's what you've been building in, you already said, what county?
Clark County.
Clark County?
Yes.
He's a management, Smith, he's the engineer, I'm the partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
John, what's your occupancy rate right now with the buildings that you built up there?
100%. With 120 people on a waiting list.
Okay. What are your guesstimates as the impact of traffic?
That's the beauty of these facilities, is we don't really get traffic from September until April. This is not a facility you go in and work on them. It's strictly 100% storage. There's no water. You don't wash there. That's not what these are about. Our goal is to, we all live in these HOAs now, and there's nowhere to park your boat or your RV. But then we also have an automatic gate to where we set the time that you can come and go. From, I think it was, 8 to 6, John?
We can set it to whatever we want to set it, or wherever we're allowed to set it.
Yeah, I saw 6 to 8.
People want as much access as we can give them.
Right.
And I think the staff report had even indicated that it was de minimis, very minimal impact
Well,
on traffic.
during your peak time, what are you guessing the traffic is going to be?
But to be honest with you, like I said, several of these, and every time I drive by, there's nobody ever there. So I know people come in and out on the weekends a lot and get their boats, go out to or they go to Norris Lake or whatever, and they come back in on Sunday night. But through the week, there's really not a lot of traffic. So.
And you don't have any supervision there, you let them pack their units into these buildings and...
Well, we have we have a place where sometimes where we have on my current one where we have like I call it like a loading area
that people, if they don't feel comfortable backing it in for whatever reason, we'll go back it in for them. But nobody ever does that, because nobody ever wants us to like mess with their post or anything, so. We offer it, but nobody uses it, so.
Is it mainly both?
It's mainly boats and like, there's three things. We get the 25 to 30 foot boats, and then we get the big like RVs that are like the 40 foot RVs that you see going down the road, and then the full behind 35 foot campers. That's what I see a lot of.
And this is down the road, I guess, but I'm looking at 100 by 45s. That's a 14-foot beam. That's pretty tight to put 7 units in one building, is it not? Am I missing something there?
What now?
So if these are 100-foot buildings,
Yeah.
45 by 100, you're putting 7 units in it.
Each space is 13 by 45, so you have a 12-foot wide garage door, and then 14-foot tall, because 14-foot lets anything go.
Right.
Yeah. But it seems to be like what everybody wants. I mean, 12 foot's more than enough to get whatever you need in, so they have extra room on the side, so.
What are your hours in Clark County?
Currently, we're 24 hours. We allow them, like, a lot of people wanna, they're coming back from a long trip from North Lake, whatever, they get in at 10 o'clock, they wanna be able to get in to put their boat away and go home, but we're obviously at the mercy of whatever county we're working in, so. There's a problem with hours, and we have to set the terms, so.
And you control those gates, there's no way for them to circumvent that.
They have access with their code, but it only works between the hours that we tell them that they're allowed in. Like if you do 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., that's all they're gonna be allowed to get in.
Okay. Do you have, I don't think I saw this in the packet, do you have anything to show the project that you currently have built?
Yes.
Is that in our packet? I didn't see it.
Just the schematics was provided. They had some photos the last meeting, but.
Sorry, go first.
Yes. Please. Same, and this is again, the same style, same, pretty much.
We're not set on color, but it's basically the same.
And what kind of residential areas? Are there houses nearby, like?
On Wood Road, or on the other property?
On the other one.
John would have to
How do your
answer that.
neighbors like that?
On the one in Clark County, we have houses, we have a church across the street, houses to the left, and houses across the street, and a nursing home across the street, so, in Fairborn. And there's another Riley's there.
I think I know what that one's
Okay.
The other one that we have is behind my office in Fairborn on right off of 675, as you go north on 70, so it's not in a residential area.
Mr. Wade, can I ask a question?
Sure, please.
So the existing building, since it's not clear what it's intended to be used for, can you help clarify what it's intended to be used for?
I'll be perfectly honest, when we bought the property, we didn't even know it was there. It was so overgrown. The building is a barn. It's a block building. It's 50 by 100, I believe. No kidding. It was a good find. But it was that overgrown back then, we didn't even know it was there. The building, we cleaned it out. It has no floor. It has electric. Has 2 overhead doors. We could use it for storage. We really have, until we got through this process, we didn't want to, we painted it, put a new roof on it, put new siding on the gables, but we really didn't want to go too much further until we knew what we were doing.
So
So is it your intent for storage for lawn equipment to maintain it, or storage that you're going to have additional units that you're selling to the
I
public?
would assume that we're just going to put, you know, lawnmowers and tractors and our own equipment in there to maintain the property.
Just trying to figure out if it becomes part of the number sequence, if I need to modify the numbers if this were to go forward, that's why it's asking the question.
No, we really, like I said, we wanted to get through this process before we got too much further.
The maintenance building is what you're talking about.
And these aren't climate controlled.
No.
Okay.
I think one of the major concerns is gonna be how much traffic. And, you know, if you've got, close to 170 vehicles, be they boats or RVs, you know, that 4 months or 6 months, whatever, you know, that's when the concentration is going to be. So, you know, I tried to just guesstimate, okay, let's say somebody takes their vehicle out 5 times a year. If that's going to be smashed into 6 months, then that, you know, that's 280 times a month. If it's 5 times, that's 5 times in, 5 times out. Then that equates to 64 a week. And you know, I'm thinking if it's concentrated on picking up on Thursday or Friday and dropping off on Sunday or Monday, then that's concentrated on 4 days of those weeks. So it's going to be coming down to maybe between 30 and 40 per day if that were spread out on 6 months. And if it were spread out in 4 months, it's going to be somewhere between 35 and 50 maybe.
Like John said, when he drives by his facility, he never sees anyone there.
Right, but the neighbors probably see it.
I would say that we probably have, like right now, it's a busy season. I would say that 5 people come in and out a day. And a lot of people have parked their camper in there, and they've never moved it in the 2 years that I've owned it.
You've ever been around boat owners and RV owners, they make a lot of payments and they
The
don't.
first year they do.
Yeah, right.
Have you had any complaints from your current neighbors about the current facilities that you have?
I have not. But
How many, Jeff, I think you said this, how many houses could go in that?
Without sanitary sewer, it'd be 8.
Double that, the sanitary.
Yeah, you actually get an extra 1, so it'd be 17 with sanitary sewer.
The sanitary sewer is to the north, I assume, right?
I did not research sanitary sewer, I researched electric. Because that's the only utility we're gonna utilize.
You're not going to have any water at all.
No. And there's a primary electric line that goes down the south side of the property, all the way down to almost to 75, services a roadside.
And all of this drains to the north?
Yep.
So drainage wouldn't be a problem?
No, it all drains towards the retention area.
I would say it drains, like towards 75.
It does, yeah.
Which would be what, east?
Northeast.
Northeast.
Way out, yeah.
Okay. You guys have any more questions for the applicants, because we'll open it up for the public to come up and, come to the podium and, give us your name. Any more questions for them at this time? The public may have some stuff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to come up, and, when you do come up and state your name, just a minute, come up and state your name and your address for the record. These meetings are all recorded, and, so they're available to watch on our website. So, gentleman in the back, he had his hand up first, come on up.
Well, sorry I'm late. I forgot about it.
advertising for you.
State your name and your address, please.
My name is Ronald Kane at 394 Turner Drive.
This is a different,
This is not the, this is a different public hearing. You wanted, this is up on Woods Road, close to, towards Miamisburg.
yours is the next.
Yeah, we have two tonight.
So you're not late.
You're not late, you're early.
You're all right.
Well, I'm at the wrong meeting. All right.
Hang around.
No.
No, this is the correct meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're at the right meeting, it's just the wrong one.
It's next.
You're
After-
next.
After
You're
we get done
next,
with this
Ronnie.
part.
Oh, I'll be next.
you're
Oh,
next.
okay.
That's right.
Gotcha. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, anybody else that would like to come up and, yes, sir?
Just for or against?
Yeah, either way. Yeah, come on up and state your name. Yes, sir. Just whatever your viewpoint is, let us know.
My name's Stephen Vogel. I live at 9871 Clear Creek, Franklin Township Road, sorry. I'm in Franklin Township. What I was gonna say, very short, I still keep it very short. After what I just heard, I'm offended and a bit agitated. He's stating that people live in HOAs, and so they have no place to put their stuff. And so they're gonna come into our residential neighborhood, and they wanna go ahead and put their stuff where we don't want it. They make the choice to move into an HOA. These gentlemen are gonna profit off of it. Either way, we're the ones stuck in the middle. As a business owner, successful business owner, I understand the desire for growth. I understand the need for growth. But we have places for homes. We have places for businesses. We moved in 2 years ago, and we checked on those two properties, and we did our due diligence. They are residential. I ask you each one question. If somebody were to propose this directly across the street, and I don't care how high any hill is going to be, you're talking RVs. I don't know how tall these buildings are, but no mountain's going to cover those buildings. If it was proposed right across the street from you, I just ask if you would move this forward. All we're asking
Do
is...
you want my answer? Absolutely.
Really?
I live across the street from Pioneer Boulevard. Best neighbor you could possibly have. They could put 2,000 houses out there and they'd come out onto my street. They can't come out onto my street. They go home every day at 5 o'clock. Been there since it was built, and it's a great neighbor. It's far better than residential. Now,
Well,
that's my personal opinion.
and then you're entitled to it. I would still say, to the other gentleman up here, I would just ask that you would treat us the way you would treat yourself, your family, and your neighbors. I don't want a business across the street. I have no problem with neighbors across the street. And I respectfully just disagree with you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir, come on up.
Name's Luke Brandon, 11381 Lonesome Oak, the community manager at Oakwood Village, right next door. And I just have a question. What is the distance between the development and Oakwood Village property?
I looked at those setbacks too, forgive me, our packet tonight has 206 pages in it, so it's not, and I'm the technology guy, so I'm the one to blame for us having iPads now. So if you were gonna say the closest movement to the north, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
In other words, the closest building to the north appears to be about,
96.
100, close to 100 feet from the north property line.
Okay. And will we maintain that tree line in between the two properties?
That's the intent, for as much as needed. I mean,
As far as we know, it'll stay there.
unless there's scrub brush that needs to be
Right.
cleaned up, yeah.
We prefer to do.
Right. We can't speak for the Montgomery County portion, but as far as the Warren County side and the Clear Creek Township side, we would certainly prefer they keep it.
Okay. I think most of it's on your side, if I'm not mistaken. But, and my only other question is,
No, it's actually not. Most of it's on the Montgomery County side.
is it really?
Yeah.
I thought it was right at that fence line.
There's a wedge that goes,
Yeah, here you can see it on the screen.
see the grass wedge?
You see the width of the left-hand side of that black line?
I do, yeah.
And then the width to the right hand of it? It's probably about 70/30, I would say. Learn something new every day. I didn't even know our TV did that.
You're our tech guy?
Well, I guess my only concern would be for the sake of the residents, you know, what hours our construction gonna be over the next 5 years, that sort of thing.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you. Good question. Speaking of construction, so if, say you had normal weather and you're planning on building these, how many at a time?
For the first phase.
And what kind of construction time are you talking about?
Usually 7:30 to 3:30.
How about weeks, about weeks?
Oh.
These buildings are going up about one a week.
But then you got, there's more infrastructure stuff,
Sure.
so.
Asphalt.
Asphalt, storm drainage and all that, so it would be like probably a 4 to 6 month timeframe.
So everything, which this is down the road too, are the floors of the buildings asphalt as well?
Concrete.
Concrete.
They have to be, so that they
Right,
hold
hold the weight, understood.
I have another question, kind of hung up on the traffic thing a little bit. What's the percentage of Clear Creek Township residents are going to be your customers versus Montgomery County outlying areas?
I don't know I don't know how to answer that, because obviously the Clear Creek are gonna be closer, so.
Gets there first.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then-
what I'm guessing is most of them is going to be from outside of the township, which is not a bad thing for township residents, because of the traffic would be going away from them instead of into them and from them.
Yeah, I would assume that with the 75 Austin Landing intersection, that people are gonna exit the facility, go north, and get back on the interstate. I mean, that's where Speedway's at, and you know, I would assume that they would use that to their advantage and go up there and use the facility for fuel and snacks and soda and whatever, and be on their way.
Jeffrey, when you spoke to Montgomery County, or to Michael Township, did they say anything about the agricultural that's north of the school in that area? Was there any comments about future use?
It was not.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I spoke with Mr. Snyder before we came tonight, and I do have, and you can ask him, but he said he had no objection to any part of what was on the plan. Or
I'm just curious as to what, I mean, I think we, and I wasn't part of the last land use plan when it was done, but I think the realism of it is, as you go north, that's all getting kind of run into the Austin Landing corridor. It's already happened on the other side of the highway, right? So, obviously with Oakwood Village there, it's not going to be an immediate impact, but, just curious as to, because they've got the school there now and the firehouse and all those things that kind of change the dynamic of that area, so.
I mean, his only comment was really, you know, that it's zoned for mobile home, and so.
Well, no, it's not.
That's what he said.
Not on our side, it's not.
No, not on your side, I'm saying
Yeah.
on his side.
Yeah.
It's mobile
But it's
home.
also wetlands back there, so if you.
Yeah.
They might be pontoons.
Right.
So.
Anybody else have any comments? Want to come on up, please?
Hello. My name is Christine Bailey, and I live at 9873 Clear Creek, Franklin Road. And I don't live in this because it's hard enough for me to get out onto the road now. And I can't imagine during construction getting out and with the extra traffic. And my question too, are they gonna widen the road? It's already, my car is a little Malibu, and I have trouble, you know, getting on that skinny little road. So what's gonna happen there?
That's a good question. Are there plans for turn lanes?
I'm not aware of any road improvements that are planned outside of a project. So if this were to move forward, then there would be traffic impact study potentially for the project. With that, and there'd be road improvements required by the county, dedication, and the like. But outside of that, there's not a thoroughfare update plan for the road to be widened.
It really comes after we make the decision on the zone and the county gets involved. And we don't tell them, we can't tell them that they have to put a turn lane in.
We try.
But if the county.
Well, I mean, widen the whole road, like it's widened, north of us,
Right.
down by the trailer park.
Right.
Right.
You know, we've been waiting
Third lane.
long years for that road to be widened and promised, and it hasn't been. So if it gets passed, then you ask for it to be widened, right?
Correct.
That's true.
That's all I gotta say.
Yep. That is true.
Hello.
So, my name is Mr. Gabbard, and as you may recall,
If you would give us your name.
oh, I'm sorry, Amy Vogel, 9871 Clear Creek, Franklin Road, directly across the two properties. But as you recall, 5 months ago, we were having this discussion about the Duro property. And I don't want a business set up across the street like my husband said we would. And it's all residential, so we felt like it was safe to move there. So I just ask that you follow the recommendation from the Regional Planning Commission and your township zoning commission to deny it. At the same time, I'm not going to go through the list of reasons because we hashed that out early on. But I'm simply here as a fellow resident of Warren County, just begging you to consider your neighbor in this. And, rezoning the parcel here, Clear Creek Township, Miami Township, but there's also Franklin Township on the entire other side of the street. And so it makes things a little trickier because your decision is going to impact a township that we're kind of left in the middle, that other people are deciding things that are going to happen and that are going to affect our township. And Mr. Gabbard, the last time that we were in this room discussing the Duro property, he made a comment along the lines of being a good neighbor to Creek Township. And we have that responsibility also as Franklin Township to be good neighbors to Clear Creek Township. And I just want to tell you, there's some times I wanted to email you because that comment stuck with me. Because I felt like in the final decision of the Duro property, you guys actually listened to us and saw us as people and as neighbors, and that it was going to impact our homes. And as you start looking at society and the world, it's like, wow, that's what's being forgotten, is that we're forgetting to be neighbors. And so I just thank you for that. It's also challenged me personally as my witness in my faith, and just what kind of neighbor am I being? So I just ask you to really consider that. And although this is a planned use development, it is a commercial development nonetheless, and it will impact our neighborhood. And I feel like once we as a society turn our back on what family, home, and neighborhood should be, that there's no going back, and we start to lose some of the things that are most valuable. And I believe that there are some things that money cannot buy, and if we only focus on money and commercial growth, then there are things and places that we will end up destroying, things like peaceful residential areas that are really valuable and that serve a purpose for people so that they have a nice place to live and to rest. So again, I just beg you to follow the lead of the master plans that are out there right now and the 2 recommendations to deny it, and so that that property does remain residential. Because I would rather have neighbors and people, because those are really things that I value in my life, than having a business across the street. And then just in different things that have been said, has there been an can I speak to the builder?
Sure, you can ask your
Has
question.
there been an analysis to find out, because in the original commission meeting, it sounded like you thought they were gonna be local residents that were gonna be using it, and then come to find out that the wait list is so long in Clark and Green, and Beaver Creek and Fairborn that we're gonna have people come through, and my guess is that they may not get on the highway, but they may head down towards Penny Royal and get to 73, because you have Caesars Creek and Cowan Lake. And so that will impact not only our street, but the rest of Fairfield Franklin Road that
And
heads
any
to
development's
73.
gonna have an impact on the traffic. If we put 17 houses over there, it'll have an impact on
I
the traffic.
understand.
So, you know, the decision, whatever we do, whatever happens there, is gonna impact the traffic. There's no question about it.
Right,
So,
right.
and-
I'm just looking at clientele. I would rather have people
So
than,
if they build houses over there, do you just want people from Springboro to buy those houses?
well, if people move into the area, this is becoming a corridor for Cincinnati and Dayton.
Nobody,
But-
it's always been a corridor between Cincinnati and Dayton
Right.
for the last 100 years. If you have a business in Springboro, you don't survive on people that just live in Springboro. So if we approve the business, people are gonna come from all over.
Right.
That's just the way it is, and if they put houses there, people are gonna come from all over.
Right.
It's not just gonna be Springboro people,
Right,
and as any other business,
right.
it
And
won't survive.
but the purpose of people coming there will be different. It's either to be using it as a business or to be using it as a resident. And I was just not, that's, in my opinion, that's where I'm coming from. I also question, Mr. Stafford, when you say you drive by and it's empty and nobody's there, when are you driving by? And, what time of the day are you driving by? And,
I'm there a lot right now because we're building some additional spaces, so I'm there all different times of the day because I'm like making sure like the inspections are happening or the subcontractors are there, so.
but you're there during working hours?
Mainly 8 to 4.
Okay.
But I also live 3 minutes from there, so I'm around a lot.
And then are you not having restrooms? I know, like you said, you just looked into electricity, but there's no restrooms for your clients.
No, that's not something that they asked for.
Okay. And then, I guess, there's another concern if construction is gonna last for 5 years. That's a long time to have to deal with construction. That's what their plan right now. So, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come up? Anybody? Okay.
Before you close it, just so I can put on the record, there were emails that I received that were part of your packet. So Kyle and Paula Stepernick of 9587 Clear Creek Franklin Road, Ralph and Elizabeth Walden of 7330 Clear Creek Franklin Road, Kimberly Sloan of 7946 Clear Creek Franklin Road, and Barbara Smith of 7999 Clear Creek Franklin Road, all were in opposition with mimicking what was discussed this evening. I did talk with Scott Giroux on the phone today. He's the person that is south of this at 0415-1001-008. He also lives out of town in Paradise Island, Destin, Florida. He was discussing he would be in favor if it was of a quality development. He wants to see something go in there that actually brings value and quality to the area. That was his statement. I'm passing it on. I was told so.
That is the question. Okay. If nothing else, I'm going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing, and then we'll reopen our meeting. And at that point, I'll ask for a motion on resolution 53-8. Nothing else, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Musil? Yay. Mr. Whitman? Yay. Okay, we're back into our regular session. Jeff, anything else you'd like to say about this?
Good. Truly, you're wanting to proceed, we should look at conditions, but that's the only other discussion that I have.
Okay. this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve, modify, or deny this request.
So to be clear, if we want to work on conditions, it would be modified.
Correct, as set up today, you have to act upon the zoning commission recommendation of the trustees, which is a denial. So, if you want to have it go forward with conditions, it would be a modify.
And if we do a modify, then we have to, am I correct, we have to do that, has to be unanimous?
Actually, it's majority.
Majority.
Statute has changed, so.
Statute is changed. That's interesting. Okay. And once we make the motion, it's, whatever it is, we also will dispense with a second read.
Yes, sir.
It needs to be in the motion.
Based on the discussions that we've had and the modification that the regional planning recommended, that's what I'm saying is modified. That, am I on the right path?
Yeah, Warren County Regional Planning put forth conditions, the zoning commission didn't think those conditions all were applicable. If you believe that a PUD should go forward, PUDs need to have a box and have conditions.
Right.
So there's a boilerplate element that I have. If you'd like to look at those as things that would be considered comparable, well. So.
Then if we have a motion to modify, then we would go through the list at another point in time, have another meeting like this one, then to accept or deny the rezoning request, is that right?
Actually, you would do it this evening. If you're able to come to, let me step back, since you closed the public hearing, you have 20 days to act. So you have to finalize this activity within that time. Typically, if you're able to come to a decision for what would be conditions, then that would be something this evening that you would finalize with this resolution. If not, it would be the next meeting that would be finalized. Does that make sense, sir?
So we would need to have the discussion to have all the conditions. We have to have all those conditions listed tonight.
Yeah, if you're wanting to modify, then that is part of the heavy lifting that would occur this evening for discussion. This is what you feel is appropriate, not appropriate. If that's something that you're wanting to have additional discussion about, then if you don't think that the time's not right for you to have that discussion, or you want to reflect about something that has to be done at the next meeting because of the timeline associated with the statutory requirements.
So we could table this
To finalize
the
conditions, if that's what you're going. So if that's the discussion, I guess I'd have you start the discussion if I could get the Zoom to work here for a moment. I had a drawing. It's great when technology works, does Mr. Garrison this stuff. So just as boilerplate, I guess is the word I was looking for. So let me see if I can get this back up and running. So what I have brought up, based upon regional planning list, they had things that were not requested by the applicant. There was discussion about vacuum cleaners and outdoor storage and things that just did not apply to the request. So what I have done is, based upon a boilerplate, established 14 conditions that would be part of your discussion this evening if that was the path you were going. And you would say, these are things appropriate, these are things not appropriate. If you could come to a decision after that, because you might also have things that you wanted to add that are not part of it, then you would be able to go forth with a motion this evening. If there's a direction that you're wanting to go and the wording's just not right, then that would be something that for tabling and bringing it back up so you had the correct verbiage. I'm sorry. Let's even make it bigger. So, is this what you're wanting to look at, or how do you want to proceed? I guess I should ask for direction.
I think if you want to go through this process and look at those, in my opinion, you're trying to pick out to see what you want to approve it. that's fine, and I think the process is worth that. If you think you really don't want to approve it anyway, there's no sense going through the process in person. But you can do that.
I'd like to look at approval with modification, because that's where I can go. If you guys wanna do something else, that's on you.
Oh, yeah, well, we can do that. So, then, we need to go through these items, 14 items, and see if they are something you want to add to this resolution, and move on from there.
So, first, draft condition reading, all plans and proposals of the applicant shall be made conditioned upon approval unless modified by one of the following conditions. That's boilerplate, it's straightforward.
You have that printed out somewhere.
You got it.
I did provide a copy on the dais
Okay.
this evening. Not? You got one? The site is limited to indoor recreational vehicles and boat/watercraft storage, so that is the use that's appropriate for the site. Number 3 is the maximum number of new buildings shall be 24, the maximum number of individual storage units shall be 168, based upon the current plan. The existing buildings shall be used for maintenance-only storage, not for rental, based upon what I heard this evening. That's how that would be modified. Number 5 is boilerplate, that in compliance with stage 1 section of our code, compliance with the Warren County subdivision regulations. The applicant shall submit all required documents for stage 2, that's your updated site plan, your landscape plan, lighting plan, signage plan, all of the things identified. Number 8 is the building design material submitted, referencing back to what was submitted on June 1st, which will serve as a guiding document. And then, number 9, the applicant should submit a stormwater management plan approved by both Warren County and the Montgomery County Engineers Office prior to the stage 3 application. The Hickory Township Zoning Resolution, Chapter 10, General Business B2 regulations shall serve as the minimum standards for setbacks. Systems of warehouses in the B2 provides that as baseline rationale for setbacks. Hours of business operation is limited 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is from regional planning, so this is still a discussion item. Come forward, chain link fences shall screen the view from Quid Creek, Franklin, Wood Road with landscaping. Razor wire and similar materials will not be permitted. Number 13, the applicant shall submit a roadway access improvement plan approved by a Warren County engineer prior to stage 3 application. Prior to submittal to stage 2, notification of by a Warren County engineer determining if a traffic impact analysis is necessary is required. If a traffic impact analysis is required, shall be done prior to the stage 3 application. Any additional road right-of-way required should be dedicated at time of final plat, so puts those items together. And finally, if the septic tank was something that was required, we had to go before Warren County Health Department or review it, what they represent this evening is they're not wanting to have it. They don't have the backside that it's required by another entity. That'd be something you'd have to have prior to stage 2. So that's a boilerplate, just so that it specifies these are things that are occurring in stage 1. It is a starting point. I think better than what was provided by regional planning because it is specific to this application. So it may not be the end-all list of conditions based upon your design.
It could still be conditions added.
Correct.
And
Or
these
subtracted.
They could still be modified.
Yes.
Just a starting point.
Yep, so this was for discussion. Oh, that's something, how you want to proceed?
I would knock the hours back from 6 o'clock to maybe 9 o'clock in the morning to 8 at night.
I think I'd change number 12 to reflect the vegetation buffer as well.
And these are suggestions that we could come up to.
Right.
Yeah, so if you're saying the stage for, okay, this is the perimeter of the box,
Yeah.
approved with this, you know, then if it's a stage 2, we go back and say what was required at stage 1, have you shown these elements, then all the requirements in stage 2 would come forth. At the end of stage 2, would have an approval, denial modification from everything that was shown thus far.
Then it could be tweaked further.
Yeah, and this is the first rules of play, so if they're gonna play the game, this is what you're expecting. So if there are other things you're expecting that are unique to the site, that help give neighbors different impact than what you feel the site plan is showing, building design, those types of things can all be, hey, this is what we're expecting, type of process with the stage 1.
I would move to approve it with these modifications.
I'll second.
No, but you're not locking it into these modifications, but these modifications and others that may come in the other states.
Well, yeah, so this is, as currently motioned, this is the stage 1 approval. So we would have the 14 draft conditions as modified, as we talked about, for the maintenance, building, the hours of operation, and the buffer for the landscape would be your stage 1. We come back to the stage 2, providing all that information, and you can really set a conditions for stage 2. So that's the motion as I understand the modification.
So we're going to add the 14 as an appendix to this legislation and reference that in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably want to ask the applicant if they're comfortable with these conditions.
Probably should.
Those, the applicants are saying, are there any of those conditions that you can't deal with or that you'd like to talk about? Not quite frankly, not that we're going to change it.
I would like to leave the hours 6 to 8, but
Okay. Noted that you prefer 6 to 8. Anything else?
What did we do that on 48?
For hours of operation.
That storage facility? That was 8 to 8. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It was
Be part of the modification, whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is. It seems like it's more of business hours than,
Like 8 to 6 or 8
than
to 8.
hours that are outside of that realm, but I can't recall off the top of my head. If it's something that you'd like, I'm happy to hold the file.
I just,
You can adjust.
yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with these modifications of 14 items.
Yes, I second.
Need a second?
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Okay. So we will have the next step, just a question so everybody knows. How long does this process typically take to get through? If we don't have meetings where we send them back, if everything goes step by step by step.
Yep, so the PUD process is a 3-step process. The first step takes 4 months, and the next couple of steps will take at least a 3-month period, so you're looking at approximately a year from the date at which they would start it to then actually be able to utilize the property.
If everything goes.
If everything goes according to the minimum. So at this point, you've approved, it sits in referendum for 30 days. After that, it becomes a final act. And they have between now and it becoming final to get stuff together for their stage 2, have to meet a submittal date, have to meet all the expectations for all of that application requirements. So it's not as if they're going to come in tomorrow and have it unless they've been doing a lot of homework prior to. So yes, it's going to take some time to get from point A to point B.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for attending, and we appreciate your comments. And we do have, if you'd like to stay around for the next public hearing, you're more than welcome to do that, or you're more than welcome to leave. So at this time, we have scheduled a public hearing in Resolution 5381, which is a resolution to approve, modify, or deny the zone change application of Amanda and Nathan Reams on State Route 48. 23.199 acres, open space for rural, residential zone, OSR1, and residential zone R1, mixed-use plan use development, dispense with the second reading. Okay, is there a motion to recess this meeting, the regular meeting, and the public hearing for item C?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Music? Yay. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah.
All right. So we're looking at a combination of 3 different parcels that have been platted together into one request. The larger chunk is the OSR 1 element, the small chunk, and the small chunk of the R1 element of the request. This is the original site plan. There was a modified site plan, but this is the original that came through, which requests for a single-family dwelling on the property, a warehouse storage structure for an off-site business. Since it's more intensive than what home occupation would allow, and since we don't have a true straight zoning classification allows me to zone, the request is for a mixed-use plan of development to allow the residential and the commercial on the same parcel and have the same level of permitted use, so to speak. So one did not become a legal non-conforming to the other, they're both existing as a permitted use on the site for the request. So, on August the 3rd, the request was updated. And of that update, our request is for the residential to allow addition to the 7,200 square foot single-family dwelling, a 1,500 square foot pole barn, 1,000 square foot pool house, and 3,200 square foot swimming pool, for a grand total of 12,900 square foot of residential structures on the property. And the expansion of the non-residential site, so this is for update the house, the pool house, the barn. And then this area is for the non-residential. The original request was for a 4,000 square foot building. The business is located in Lebanon. They run out of space. They wanted to have storage capacity on this property. During the oral representation of the zoning commission, there was discussion about also allowing laser engraving to occur, so they wanted production to also occur on the site. Since that time, there's discussion about, okay, I also want to have outdoor storage in a fenced-in area, plus I want to expand it by sandblasting to occur in the engraving room inside the structure. So the outdoor storage area is declared to be 2,500 square feet.
Hold on just a minute. Gentlemen, excuse me, gentlemen. You need to not talk, you're making it hard for people to hear. Thank you very much.
We apologize, sorry.
So the outdoor storage area, there was discussion about potentially having a partial roof over it, so if the true roof went over the 50 by 50 area, that's an additional 2,500 square feet. Talking about a 6-foot privacy fence and landscape to surround that area. They had addition of a 24 square foot sign, so of the non-residential, increased from 4,000 square foot to a 7,524 square foot request. Also modification for the open space, the initial request, I was to have all the open space in the rear of the property along the western boundary line. The update shows in the yellow is actually the open space, trying to put along all the periphery of the property so that the boundaries are given the benefit instead of just having it in the rear. So with that being said, let's look at the land use plan, what's going on in those areas. So this is the requested area, it's outside of the sewerable area. It's along the primary arterial, and if we look at the thoroughfare, it's along the first one is principal arterial, urban, the other is primary arterial, statement. No matter how they rephrase it, unlike the last request, it was until local road. So, we're looking at the planning area. This is in planning area 6. We haven't had much activity in planning area 6. That is made by more rolling topography, a mixture of large agricultural tracts, rural residential lot frontage development, and large lot subdivisions. In 2005, roughly 50% was built out. The sanitary sewer present or anticipated, it was agricultural but changed. So when the land use plan was updated, the designation was specified to be OSR1. So open space rural residential. So we'll look at some of the history of the property for the zone changes that have occurred in its current classification. So the 0.55 acre chunk, which is the southern finger of the property, actually came into zoning classification in 1973 as a neighborhood business B1. It's found that that was an error in 1985 and through a rezoning request to take it out of commercial and put it into residential R1. In 2005, the R1 classification of rural residence, R1 was reclassified into R1, but that's true, the only change. The .282 acre chunk, so this little one here, has been R1 since 1973. The remaining parcel was R1 who came into OSR1 during the time which 2005 updated land use plan occurred. So if we look around the surrounding, to the north and to the west, to the east, we have OSR1. Directly to the north, we have a property that has an R1 PUD. This was a 1976 approval to allow antique sales and accessory structure in addition to single-family use of the property. To the south, we have R1 classifications. Further far south, we have the Burns Transmission and Turner Drive. So those are surrounding zoning classifications for the property. We look at the update. We still have the same classifications of 20 acres is in residence or open space use. As I specified, there are new structures involved with that. Commercial use of the property is still confined to a 2.76 acre tract, which is this area here in front of the property. So they were updated. This is the first rendering, quote-unquote, photo of what was going to be the property. This is the style which the home and the business was going to be developed in. The update that came last week showed a little bit of variation, but still metal roofing, metal facades for those structures. Conceptual what the whole would look like, whole house would look like, and then fencing around the different areas for more privacy, more separation, and then entryway to the property. So if we're looking at overall impervious surface, things are included in there. Approximately 1.28 acres out of the 23.199 acres is something that's impervious, whether the building or pavement associated with the property. The rest is open to be drained, so fields, one could say. It's not necessarily open space, but it's not built upon per this request. So if we look at what the density of the property could be if it was built out as residential, since there's no sanitary sewer, out of the 23 acres, you're looking at 9 lots because your minimum lot size is a 2-acre lot size. So that's what's going on there. And when Warren County Regional Planning looked at this, they had approved the request with a total of 12 conditions. When the zoning commission looked at those conditions, they actually modified the conditions to what is the current resolution, with a total of 10, with number 10 going through the letter E for use. When the zoning commission looked at it, they felt that anticipated that the area would remain residential because the land use plan, but the mixed use requests a small percentage of residential use, a small percentage of non-residential use, and a large percentage of undeveloped land. I felt that this would be appropriate. Felt that the request maintained the existing rural character, non-residential business, neighborhood business, industrial, and public institutional along State Route 48 between Pekin and State Route 122. Felt this was within the character of that area. At that hearing, neighbors only expressed positive comments regarding the proposed rezoning, and no negative comments were heard at that time. So what you have before you is the current request by the zoning commission. However, the applicant has modified the request, so if you agree with modifications, you would do a modification of this resolution to strike or add conditions if that was desired to occur. I can attempt to answer questions before I should.
Tell me about the spot that you said is zone commercial now. Is that what was several years ago where they were going to have the home occupation?
Okay, so the property immediately to the north is the old schoolhouse. I can get the cursor to play. So right here. So it's an R1 PUD. The actual commercial property is on Turner Drive with Burns Transmission. So that's the actual commercial classification. We do have
in the area.
Everything else is a residential.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, all right. The applicant was present, when I looked back before. Yep, so present, so I'll pull up their presentation and.
Hey, Jeff, shorten the
Well, if he's not, if it's just things that you're taking out, I would just pass
Just,
forward.
okay, cool, yeah.
It'll save you time to go forward.
Clicker to move forward.
Yep, so whoever wants to click it, forward yours. Okay. So come up, introduce who you are.
So my
and-
name is Amanda Ramsey, and I live at 798 Farview Avenue in Lebanon, Ohio.
And I'm Nathan Ramsey, and I live at 798 Farview Avenue as well.
And I'm Josh Lyles, I'm with Apex Engineering and Surveying, 1068 North University Boulevard in Middletown.
So basically, this is my family, and we are in Monument Shop here in town. Since our last meeting, when we came in here and talked to everybody, they kept asking us, you know, what is your dream? What do you guys want to do on the land? And we said, you know, the warehouse and our home. We didn't know that we would have to say a pool or a fence or a barn or, you know, anything like that. So we had to go through and modify. So the Phase 1 amendment is a pole barn by our house, a zero entry pool, a small pool house to the west of the pool, a 6-foot privacy fence around the perimeter of the backyard, and a picket fence and a gate at the front entrance. We did have those two, the red house and the red barn, but we decided we really like the sleek black look, the darker look. So I've got pictures of that, and I've tried to switch it before, but...
Same structure, a different color.
Yeah, exact same. The pole barn would be for personal use. It would be behind or west of the house, no bigger than 40 by 60. It would just be for our personal equipment, for like lawn mowing and four-wheelers and stuff like that. Zero entry pool, no bigger than 40 by 80. Again, it would be in the back of the L shape of the house, hidden in there. A small pool house, approximately 30 foot west of the pool, no larger than 25 by 40, and aesthetically it will match the house. A 6-foot privacy fence around the perimeter of the backyard, just for a little bit of privacy. And then a picket fence and gate at the front. So there's pictures of those. Pertaining to the intensity of the production at the warehouse, we ask that we be allowed to put a self-contained indoor sandblasting room. It would be soundproof. It would not produce any offensive noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odors, electrical, any of the amendments there. This would allow us to work smarter, not harder, and be more productive and satisfy more companies in less time. Family. Right now, he sandblasts outside by hand, and so if it's too hot, too cold, too windy, snowing, we're completely based off the weather. So it would be a game changer for us. Pertaining to the no commercial display outside, the only thing that we would ask is that we be allowed to have an outside storage to the west of the building, opposite of the road, maybe extending the width of the building, which would be 50 foot wide, maybe 50 foot deep. We would have an awning over probably 25, 30 foot of it, so only 20 or 30 foot would be exposed. Again, we would have the nice fencing around there, aesthetically pleasing. And then the warehouse size would be approximately 50 by 100. And then the only other thing was asking for visible signage at the front, just for deliveries. About the does not produce any noise, vibration, I just wanted to say, number one, we will be compliant. Number two, we've never been a problem for any of our neighbors in 40 years. We've never had a violation, we've never had a complaint, and we sandblast outside right now, so.
What's your current residence or at your business?
At our business, yeah. Which is right in the middle of Lebanon and surrounded by residents. Okay. So, and yeah, I mean, I would say that obviously we were kind of grandfathered in because we've been there for a long time, but the neighbors have rotated quite a few and we've never had any complaints. So we were talking about the 5.86 acres to spread evenly amongst the property on the outside border. And when we did that, when we actually had Josh draw it up, it took a lot of the very front area of the commercial. So I had him redraw it. I didn't have time to get to Jeff properly in time. I apologize for that. But I've got a picture of that, where it goes on the border. Don't got that here. Let me see. Can I, is there a way to get this up on the screen?
Right.
If you plug in, it may take,
Okay.
because
I would say the only change is real simple. Basically just did a 20-foot border on the north and south property line, and then to get to the minimum 25%, then the back, I think it's 435 feet from the west boundary. Off of that was 435 feet, and you'll have a 20-foot strip along the north boundary and a 20-foot strip all along the south boundary. And that gets us to our 25% of required open space.
So there's still a buffer on the north and south side, but just more to the west. And then I was looking up the new noise ordinance here and couldn't find it, but I also did a dB comparison for the noise level of the laser. It's faint, sounds like a LaserJet printer, and the sandblaster is mid-60s. It's the same as a modern conversation. And I put a little example there just showing you guys that we would be. Again, the indoor sandblasting unit is completely self-contained, and it has an air filtration system, so the air leaving our building will actually be cleaner than when it did when it came in. And
let me ask, is your plan to vacate your place in Lebanon?
No, the place in Lebanon will be retail only. That'll be our facility for retail. We're going to redo the whole complete bottom and make a walk-through retail display, like an indoor and outdoor showroom. Build bleachers up to where when they drive by they can actually see the monuments raised down in the bay. So we're really excited about the change there. But that's going to be our retail, and where clients are going to go. This is just going to be personal and where we can get our work done. And then that we sandblast with garnet, which is crushed granite. We don't use silica, we don't use sand. So I just wanted to point on that. That's a picture of our laser machine. Like I said, it just goes back like a printer. And then this was cool. This is very end. Anyways, I just found out some history about the land, and in 1854, this actually was on the property and turned into a casket and funeral business. That was actually on the property in 1800. So I just thought that was a little tidbit neat of information, and we've been finding some treasure out there. So, okay, cool.
Ain't got any dead bodies back there, do you?
Not yet. Let's hope not. We found a cistern though and started digging down in it, but we just found some little flash
Digging
freezing.
into cisterns around.
You know, I heard somebody else said that too. So, but anyway,
I've got 2 daughters. I gotta know where all the cisterns are on my property.
Amen, brother.
Anyway, that's us in closing. But yeah, that was what I was going to say here. The plan is to renovate the interior of the building in Lebanon. That'll be our new indoor-outdoor showroom, and basically, yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Start.
So, you're switching the Lebanon facility to retail.
Yeah.
My assumption is, well, I'm not gonna make this, I'm trying to ask a question. You finish the product after they order it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are you gonna transport that from this facility downtown first for them to approve it? Or
No.
is this something that goes on, I don't know how that works.
So, when they do a contract, we then produce a layout of exactly what it's going to look like. Once they approve that, we do the production and we set it in the cemetery. They don't come view it after it's completed, before it's done.
That's what I was,
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious about the level.
Right.
I know you're saying production versus retail, but
Yeah.
I also know people like to see things.
Yeah.
So, okay.
If they did, we'd probably take it into the Lebanon facility and let them come in there, because we don't want anybody out there.
Yeah.
We want it as private as possible.
Hey, well, I have a concern about this. Actually, it's a beautiful plan, and I appreciate all that. But one thing we've been careful and not perfect, but in a perfect township, we have not, and I would have to take this as a manufacturer business, actually. It's certainly not a home occupation, and we've been careful not to spot zone things, business zoning, commercial zoning in the middle of residential areas. Now, obviously north of you at Pekin, there's a building there, and south at Turner Drive, there's a building there, and farm across the street from Turner Drive, and then on down to Career Center, and
Kendrick's there too.
and Kendrick's, and so on and so forth. For those older businesses that have been around there before zoning, even before 1973, they've all been there. So this would be a step in a different direction for us. And I have to be concerned about how that opens up what we do to other areas of the township. That's my concern about the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
Even though this is a beautiful plan, and I appreciate it a lot, but that does concern me, so I want to see what these guys have to think. And
I understand your concern. I feel like that there's an exception to every rule, right? So, to me, as someone that works from home, but I work out of my house, but I don't do my business at my home. That this particular type of business and the way they've got it set up doesn't concern me as much. And the fact that you could almost call that little corridor right there somewhat mixed use. That's my thought. But we know when we open the door where it goes.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
How many, things will be sandblasted on those?
So we do about 95% laser etchings. So we do probably 60 sandblast jobs a year.
We would like to.
Not many.
We would like to not even do them, but we'd like to do all laser, but, it comes with the territory where, you have to service your client.
So not many. So if you say 60 a year divided by, 5 a month.
Yeah.
But we do about 95% etchings because when they see what the capability is and how the design aspect changes completely and they can celebrate their loved one by, no limitations, they typically always go to laser etching. But when they like the old school, different colors that are, more traditional, then they go that route if they're matching. But we wouldn't do anything on the land that we wouldn't do if we were living there. We want to respect the neighbors, we want to be good neighbors. We're good neighbors now. We've always been good neighbors, so we want to keep everything inside and contained and beautiful and raise our kids and our kids' kids there.
well, I think if this would happen, that side of the road between Pekin and the Career Center now becomes a commercial area. Based on each individual project, it
To be
considered.
To be considered.
To be considered, right.
And Jeff, we've had no opposition from any neighbors or anyone.
At the time of the zoning commission, there was no opposition. There's opposition.
Any opposition in the audience?
Yes, there was. And I received emails today in opposition. So there's another part to the story.
Yeah.
There's none.
Do you have any questions right now for the applicant? We'll come back.
Okay.
Come back to you. And then
Thank
we'll
you.
get the
Thank you.
The audience, thank you. Audience to whoever would like to come first. Come on up. You were.
I beat you, Monica. My name's Alan Cayley, my husband, Jim Cayley. We've lived on Turner Drive 48 years. So we've seen a lot of transition, a lot of kids raised, and thank you to the police for giving us good service. One of my main concerns is that land has always been very wet. You get back there and start digging, where's that water gonna go? We live at 376 Turner Drive, down towards the end, and it's like the mighty Mississippi, but it gets, it is very, very wet. And that is a real concern for me. And then if you go to, develop that at a later time, what are you gonna put in there? You're gonna put warehouses and stuff, I don't want a business behind that property, that's just my preference. And the other thing, you know, if you open the door, you've got Pandora's box here, you know, and there goes the neighborhood. Turner Drive is an older neighborhood, but overall it's been a quiet neighborhood. We've got new residents moving in, they're remodeling, you know, and overall things are kept pretty nice. We've got a couple that are looking kind of blighted these days, but overall it's a real good neighborhood. But my main concern is the water. Because once they get back, they're disturbing all those old tiles and stuff, you know, and I mean, our yard just gets flooded, Mr. King's yard gets flooded, you know, so, that's my take on it. Okay? Thank you. Bobby, get up there.
Okay. I could've had supper.
Oh, wait a minute, we'll all go.
Oh, okay.
Rub it in.
Well, my name is Ron Kane, 394 Turner Drive. Basically what Helen says there is a whole lot of truth about that. I mean, I've had kayaks go down my backyard. Well, sort of. You know, ducks, a lot of water problems, and it's lays in there. And what I've found out from the farmer across the road, across 48, right there, I had a shallow water ditch put in back in 80 or so, somewhere in there. And there was only a foot of topsoil. And when it got down to where it's supposed to go, there was nothing but shell rock and clay. And that's what our area lays in. And down there, as a matter of fact, I dug a little trench for my air conditioning unit. Because the fellow once was putting the water under my crawl space. Big problem. Had him run it out, and then it was pulling up. So I drained it off and got a shallow water ditch on the side to try and drain the water away to keep my crawl space dry. The water is a real concern. You know, I don't have no problem with, you know, I wouldn't mind having a free stone when time rolls for me.
Hey, we will drop you.
Appreciate it. But, there's no place for it to go. This doesn't have a lot to do with just our property and those folks back there, but the ditch on the other side. The contractor, whoever it was that put those houses in, which is irrelevant now, it's no longer his problem. He got his money, he left, and now it's ours. And there's been nothing done there. That ditch that runs through that woods behind the career center, there's no maintenance on it. And how can there be? It's private property. And then people ain't going to do anything to try and open it up more so that the water could go where originally someone had planned for it to go. It's not getting there very well and stuff. And that is that. I don't know how or what can be solved about that, but that is a concern. And personally, I mean, I like my neighbors. They're good. Well, Jim, you know, outside of that, he's okay. It is a quiet street, and I personally don't have no problem with them doing what they're going to do if everything is legit. I trust the board here and the people under the board or over or whatever. The right thing will be done. But the water is a concern because we don't have city sewage. That would be a plus if we did. Those are all leach lines and septic tanks. And that is a problem. I don't like it. But when I bought that place, it was in August. It was like this arid desert. I didn't know there was any kind of water problem down there until that next spring. I've seen ducks swimming in my backyard. For not just one day, but for several days. But unfortunately, season wasn't in. But any which way, the leach fields, the leaching and stuff like that, that's a big concern because that's a health problem. And we do have a few kids around there still and stuff. And, well, that was my only little concern. It wasn't much, but it is in a way, it's sort of a big concern.
Think about it. Yep, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time, and gentlemen, I'm going to have breakfast. Supper's gone.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add?
Hello, my name is Anna Alexander. I'm at 4116 Springboro Road. We're sort of back-ish neighbors to these people. We have no objections to what they're doing. We think it's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Putting some things down. My name is Clara Mellon, and this is my husband, Mike Niemeyer. We are the owners and residents of 4059 North State Route 48, which is bordered by 4023 North State Route 48 on its southern and western boundaries. We are here to stand in opposition of the request to rezone 4023 North State Route 48. This plan was not discussed with us in advance of this meeting, not made available for viewing until less than a week ago. It presents a drastically different land use and scale than the plans reviewed and discussed by the Warren County Regional Planning Commission and Clear Creek Township Zoning Commission. Whether by accident or design, we've been left to discern the impact of this plan on our property and our lives without the benefit of normal zoning request procedures being respected, and then therefore have been left with no other choice than to voice our opposition in the 11th hour, which would ordinarily not have been our preference in supporting Clear Creek Township trustees and zoning commission in their work. In 2019, we purchased our home, a historic residential property surrounded by residential and agricultural land, for the express purpose of being a part of the rural residential and agricultural fabric of Clear Creek Township. We were not naive enough to believe that the landscape around our home would never change. We looked at Clear Creek Township's 2005 Master Land Use Plan, zoning resolution, and map, and anticipated that a house or several houses would likely populate that lot, but felt reassured that maintaining the residential feel of our lot, our ability to participate in rural family activities such as gardening and enjoying our backyard, and our privacy away from the bustle of business was at the core of Clear Creek Township's values reflected in the aforementioned documents. When we initially heard about rezoning plans of the property, we had some apprehension about it being used for business or commercial use, but we believe in this process and felt like giving serious consideration and thought to the zoning request was the right thing to do as a neighbor and a citizen of the township. However, from beginning to end, there have been dramatic inconsistencies in the described activities and zoning intensity in the plan presented for public view versus the narrative presented by the applicant. What began as a modest pole barn for storage with few to no deliveries has become a plan to move all production for industrial operations serving 2 locations outside of the township, sales being the only thing not included on the property. It solidified our concerns that a business would bring unknowable growth, and with it traffic, noise, environmental impact concerns, and a lack of privacy, while dramatically changing the rural character and feel that made us proud to call Clear Creek Township our home. We were shocked that the new plan submitted a few days ago now outlines production activities, including aggregate blasting, and that the applicants insisted would remain off the property at their Lebanon location, an increase in intensity that we are deeply opposed to, as it presents environmental hazards that can impact our land and our health. We are also left to wonder about what types of business would move into this location next, should this building plan of seemingly untenable scale prove unable to be completed, or should this business outgrow this property and move. We are therefore resolved in our assertion that this request is in complete opposition of the goals of the outlined 2005 Master Land Use Plan, and we are opposed to any and all zoning requests that would prevent business or commercial activity on 4023 North State Route 48. While we are respectful of the time needed to assess these proposals, we would like to express urgency in the matter as earth disturbance has already been done on the property. There are several qualities emitted from the applicant's proposal that would significantly alter the appearance and feel of rural character in our residential property that are the reasons why we are voicing our opposition. Clear Creek Township's master plan states, aside from agriculture, commercial and industrial activity is very limited in Clear Creek Township. This reflects a policy on the part of the township government not to encourage commercial development in particular, and includes the policy to discourage introduction of industrial uses outside of defined areas because it would destroy the rural residential character of the township. The nature of this business more closely aligns with light industrial and industrial use as defined by Clear Creek Township zoning resolution. Aggregate blasting is generally considered an industrial process,
and is regulated by the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and Occupational Safety and Health Administration due to levels of noise, air pollution, and water contamination. Solid and wastewater from these processes may be considered hazardous. A proposal including aggregate blasting facility has not been reviewed by any advising body or regulatory body for the Ohio EPA located in Warren County. It is unlikely that a building with work of this nature would be permitted to be serviced entirely by a septic and leach field system by Ohio EPA regulations and Warren County health regulations, as those systems are only designed to manage human waste, and placing any water from an industrial process into a septic system would contaminate surrounding soil and water, dramatically impacting the health of the surrounding environment and risking the health of surrounding neighbors. It would likely prevent our favorite family pastime, vegetable gardening, which we feel is a reasonable right to expect as residents in a rural area. Our garden will sit a mere 100 feet or so from the proposed industrial building. All other monument companies in Warren County, including the current Maggard Memorial Building in Lebanon, are serviced by municipal sewer systems. To my knowledge, there are no plans at this time to extend sewer into this area of the township. The Township Master Plan also consists of the policies avoid strict commercial development and spot zoning and encourage a logical pattern of residential development outside of urban service areas that is rural in density. There are no other businesses adjoining the property, nor is there likely to be future business development on the prime century farmland that surrounds the area. The building with outside storage will be a 7,500 square foot building, which is nearly 5 times the size of our home. It will stretch from our deck all the way down our lawn and garden to the beginning of the partially wooded portion of our lot, comprising roughly 1/3 of the depth of our 1.acre property. We made our home in a residential area to enjoy our backyard and love of gardening, not to be in the shadow of a 7,500 square foot business or view its outdoor storage. The property has known drainage issues, likely due to its state as disused farmland with wetlands in need of restoration, and we heavily question the feasibility of an effective stormwater management plan to accommodate an impermeable surface on a lot of that size that would not result in neighboring properties bearing the brunt of stormwater runoff. The proposal also outlines a significant increase in business activity from prior proposals without considering an increase in the traffic and lack of privacy for its neighbors. The proposal omits increased delivery due to business growth, solid waste and wastewater removal on industrial worksite scale, and increased traffic from employees. The township may not have a noise ordinance, but we have a reasonable right to peace and quiet on our land, and feel that the claims about limited to no noise levels from the workshop on this scale to be baseless based on Ohio EPA standards for aggregate blasting. Passing cars pass. Dishwashers have a cycle. They aren't on for 8 to 10 hours a day outside of our bedroom window. The massive gate and 6x4-foot sign proposed will dramatically alter the aesthetic view. There is no other gate or gated property on State Route 48 from Pekin to State Route 122. All of these intrusions will significantly alter the residential feel of our property and decrease our privacy. Warren County Regional Planning Commission and Creek Creek Township goals with respect to man-made environments also state older homes of residential areas of historic or architectural significance should be identified, documented, and protected from unwanted incompatible land uses. A contemporary manufacturing site, which has industrial processes at its core, is not compatible or wanted use in our historic pocket of the township. Merrittstown is not a collection of items dug from a cistern. It exists today as a group of farms and historic buildings that are now all private residences, with owners committed at no small expense to themselves of caring for Creek Creek Township's historic legacy and maintaining the land use and characteristics outlined in the Township Master Plan. There is one further statement we wish to make regarding the proposed pond site and the placement on the residential portion of the plan submitted. Our understanding to date has been that features like this are generally discussed in phase 2 of the PUD process, but we feel compelled to speak now as earth disturbing on the property has already begun. The proposed pond site affords no planned overflow or flooding events on the applicant's property and will utilize the farm field to the north for overflow, as well as the northwest corner of our property, which serves as an agricultural tree buffer that we share with our neighbors to the north. Tree buffers are not just aesthetic screening. They are integral to soil and water health and serve an agricultural purpose. Designating this buffer as overflow poses significant risk to our trees, which we also value for their maturity for sap production. We cannot simply replant and continue this use. We do not seek limited leaves to farmers to the north. But as residents committed to supporting the agricultural values and feel of our community, we are deeply opposed to any plans that can negatively impact farm activity without it going through the process. For the remainder of the residential plan, we have no objection to the nature of the property in residential use, but we cannot express any level of comfort with the plan presented, as setbacks and scale are impossible to discern from the updated plan. In closing, I would like to quote the Ramsey's final remarks from their presentation. We want to improve the quality of land, maintain the integrity, raise the value, keep traffic at an absolute low, have privacy and security. Allowing this request to move forward will cost our family and our property all of those things. The applicants won't be able to see their business from their home. We will see it every morning in our bedroom window, and there are traffic, noise, and lack of privacy that they are attempting to escape from their site in Lebanon's main thoroughfare. We have no wish to cohabitate with their business in a home we intend to retire in. We never imagined our home, health, and happiness as Quincy Township residents would be in jeopardy, and we ask you to consider our comments and the Township Master Plan when making your decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Anybody have any questions for these two? Any questions or comments? Anybody else have any comments? And the applicants, if you have some stuff you want to say, come on back up.
My goodness, right before the applicant comes back up for rebuttal, just for the record, Matt Spies, is how you say his name, at 4098 North State Route 48, and John Carnes at 3928 North State Route 48, so property is immediately east of the property, so this is west. Too late today, across the street, from farmland. Both sent emails in opposition, and it was things that were spoken about this evening, so just for the record.
Right. Yes, sir.
I just want to speak to a couple of the comments. One, as far as the water issues, if you see on our plan, we are proposing a pond at that, in the corner of the little jog there, kind of in the low spot. That's where all the water's flowing now. This property actually sits below Turner Road, as far as, it's all flowing into our property, not from our property to Turner Road. It's flowing from Turner Road into our property. We are looking to install a culvert that'll cross the drive and then install a pond, which should all help kind of draw the water to the pond and help dry up the surrounding area. As far as the last people that spoke, the building for the production is 50 feet, I think it's 52 feet from that property line, and there's a fair amount of wood on the backside of that we are planning on keeping as far as a buffer from that production facility. So it's not like the production building is 10 feet off the property line, it's a fair amount from that property line. And they're trying to maintain as much wood as they can.
How big is what's your plan for the size of the pond? Have you determined that yet?
I haven't determined that yet. I would say maybe a half acre of surface area, 1 acre tops. It's really not needed as far as detention, just based on the use there and the minimal amount of impervious area that we are putting on the site. It's more for water quality and aesthetics than for detention, but it will serve the purpose of, like I said, helping to kind of drain the surrounding areas into the pond and hopefully leaving some of that wetness that everybody's talking about. And talking to the owners as far as the amount of traffic, they're looking at maybe 1 to 2 deliveries per month. So you want to have, one tractor trailer in there like once a month.
How many employees?
It's just gonna be us.
Just them.
Maybe one girl might come up every once in a while for designing purposes, but it's just gonna be us. We're not gonna have anybody there. And as far as the indoor sandblaster, it is OSHA approved and completely contained. There is no sound, so like the sound that they think would disrupt them wouldn't be more than children outside playing if there was 9 houses. I mean, it would be way less than that.
And there's no wastewater from that process.
Correct.
So the only process, I think they were looking at putting a bathroom in the production.
One bathroom.
One bathroom that would be served by septic. But there's no wastewater from the production.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I have another question. Is there any plans for future use behind the home, going back other than the open space?
Exactly what I was getting ready to ask.
No, because, well, the discussion with that is, we have 2 children, so we talked with Mr. Palmer about this, and the discussion was, would one day we allow our 2 children to build back there, but right now, no. I mean, right now, we're just gonna make it to where my parents are elderly, and we can take care of them and work and do everything on one property. That's basically the goal. My dad, who started this company, has neuropathy from his knees down, and he still wants to fiddle around with it a little bit. My mom's got essential tremors, and we're just looking to take care of them all on one property, so when they call, I can run back to the house real quick and take care of them, versus right now being out of the house.
And being as this is a PUD, any future development changes would have to come back before you guys for anything like that.
Including the R1?
Yeah, because the R1 and the OSR1 are both coming together for the mixed-use community.
I would like to comment based on their comments as I may.
Sure.
This zoning committee can absolutely enforce use, but you can't tell them not to hire employees 5 years from now to work in that building. I know that they've said they'll have one to do deliveries, but they also have to have garbage removal, that those deliveries will fluctuate as their business grows. I don't find the assertion plausible that they're going to sit here and never grow their business in this property, and that's not something that that zoning can really regulate. And I do really feel that there have been assertions throughout this process where, you know, the proposed site has significantly less intensity to get it built, and then they've made it clear that they have a lack of understanding of what that enforcement means, and it has made us significantly uncomfortable with the business next to our home. The woods between our house and their house are actually not a fair bit of woods. It's probably a 3-foot hedge of honeysuckle. It's not wood, there's some trees.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
I've got one more
Yeah.
comment. You know, regardless of the retention ponds and that they're talking about, I don't think they realize just how wet that property is, and when it rains, that field drains onto Turner Drive. And I know this because years ago, we had our yard dug up, and there was a tile this big that led from that field down Turner Drive. And I just, and I have my concerns about anything leaching out from the business as well, and opening up that Pandora's box for future businesses coming down a residential area. Turner Drive's always been a quiet little neighborhood, cul-de-sac, great place to raise kids. It's an older neighborhood now, but I'd hate to lose it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, no further comments. I will close this public hearing and reopen our regular meeting. Is there now back into our regular meeting? Motion. Yeah, is there a motion to close the public hearing and reopen our regular meeting?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard?
Yeah.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Okay, back in our regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve, modify, or deny Resolution 5381 and dispense with the second reading?
I would make a motion to approve Resolution 5381.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Oh, and stop, please.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, before the motion is voted upon, as submitted, it's approval of their application that predates last week's update. If that is what you're wanting, then that is a complete approval. If you want to change based upon that, it's a modification. It's your choice. Just want to make sure that you realize the
Including these
what you did.
modifications that we talked about tonight.
Which we've had lots of changes over since this has been submitted.
Yes, they're requesting a modification to number 2 to include residential accessories, outdoor storage, and sandblasting as a use. They're requesting for number 5 to the inclusion of construction drawings for residential accessories, construction drawings for outdoor storage, fencing plan for the entire site. Number 6, the addition of concept photos submitted August 3rd, 2022. 10B, the addition of parameters for outdoor storage. Number 11, establish hours of operation, which at this point has not been established. Be something I would suggest, and any additional clarifications or concerns you have as a final condition or conditions.
And none of these recent things have been through planning, or Warren County Planning, or through the zoning.
Correct, they all evolve, just as sometimes things do. You can decrease your acreage as you go forward. In the PUD, you're still talking about uses, so this is an increase in uses. Typically, you do not increase uses if you started off as a neighborhood business.
Right.
You don't come and ask for industrial use, but since it's a mixed use, and they're asking for anything existing in the zoning grocery store, so to speak, they're still pulling out uses in stage 1. This would be the time to limit. These are the only uses that can exist on the site. That's why they came back between the zoning commission and this meeting and clarified, we want these accessory activities and uses to occur for residential, so that was clear that those could occur in the expansion of the non-residential. So, you need to step on your toes, but
No, it's very important to make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, right now we have a motion to approve.
Yeah, to approve as submitted.
And if we deny it, send it back to regional planning, they would work through these provisions?
Well, a denial is stopping of the process.
Well, okay.
If you're wanting it to go back and have additional review, truly then that would be something that you need specific information about something. You tell them they need that in order to come back, or that becomes a condition that they need to fulfill as part of their stage 2. So 2 different ways to go there. You're at the end of the train track, so to speak, with them now. Either approve, modify, deny. And if truly there's things that are need so much discussion that you really believe regional planning and the zoning commission is more appropriate to do more heavy lifting, then the denial is what you're actually doing to restart their process with some guidance. As guys, this is what we're looking to see, or you give them the guidance through commissions.
Personally, I would not approve this, and I would not vote for the approval even with modifications, because I think it should go back and bringing in changes, significant number of changes that did not go through the zoning board hasn't seen it. And as I think I said, but anyway, I am concerned. I'm concerned that we're opening up that corridor out there, and I know we do it on a one-by-one basis.
Yeah.
I get that. But we've also, over the years, recent time, not too recent times, but we've been careful not to do spot zoning. And I think this kind of opens that up, and not that it's a terrible plan, but I think it should be a little more work and a little more stable.
I misunderstood the stamps, I'll be honest. I mean, we're 140 pages into the night, and I'm reading through this as we're going. You're absolutely right, these conditions are the latest, and that was referred to, and I misunderstood that, so that's my fault. But you can withdraw your motion, withdraw your second.
Is that what you wish to do, withdraw the motion in the second?
Yes.
Right. Until regional planning looks at it.
So then they would deny this one.
So now you need to, deny.
And they gotta start at that level with all of these conditions.
Are you making a motion?
I am making that motion.
To deny resolution 5381. And dispense with the second reading.
Okay. So I have Mr. Gabbard, his motion to deny, and your second. All right. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsfall?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you all. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay, nothing else under special activities. We're moving on to fiscal business. We have the fiscal auditor report.
please.
Yes, sir, the only thing I have for you tonight is the resolution of special exceptions for the street lighting districts. One thing I wanted to remind the board is that when we do these certifications, this is for street light expenses that occurred in 2021 that we do a report on in 2022, and then they collect them in 2023. So there's literally a 2-year offset between what we pay out and what we're able to get back from the residents there. The reason why I say that is that in the future, at some work session, there may be, with the current expenses that are soon to be coming down the line from inflation, that 2-year setback may be a cause of concern.
Put it behind the eight ball.
Right. Well, basically, there's no other solution other than we take general fund money to subsidize those expensive warranties. But that's for a future discussion and future time, but I just wanted to let the board know that that's how the process works, and we'll be coming back with that. But for right now, I do need a motion to allow me to send those expenses to the...
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 5382 and dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wick.
Yay.
And that is it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Ross, thank you. New business, planning and zoning, we have resolution 5379, a resolution determining maintenance at 5477 Spring Blossom Drive, constitutes a nuisance.
Yeah, so the reason this is out of order in number started at the last meeting, but we did not have unanimous in order to do an emergency. So therefore, doing it tonight with, as an emergency, it actually goes faster than approving it the last meeting. So they have,
My bad, guys.
that's right. They have grass on the side of their berm after they're not mowing is ultimately what's going on. So we've got this on another noxious weed. That needs to be addressed. Across from Pin Valley on the south side of Ocean.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 5379 and dispense with the second reading, declaring an emergency?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
Not this time. I do have one that I'll talk about in the administration, but.
Okay. All right, and Fire District, we have resolution 5383, a resolution authorizing the township administrator to publish a request for qualifications for architect and engineering service for design and construction of the Quick Creek Firehouse Station 24 project. Dispense with the second reading.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I'm going to advertise to get an architect and engineering firm on board to start.
Anybody have any questions for the chief?
Do not.
Is there a motion to direct the chief direct Matt to advertise? So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw.
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yay. Okay, and we also have resolution 5384, resolution declaring personal property in surplus and approving an internet auction and dispense with the second reading.
Yeah, so the new rescue truck we have in, this is the truck that's going to be replaced, so we need to get rid of it. Spell it, I've got
Time for it to go, huh? Okay, is there a motion to approve 5384?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard.
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw.
Yay.
Mr. Wade.
Yeah. And we have a recommendation to purchase Parade Guard mobile decontamination unit.
Yeah, so I learned about this at the fire station conference. I was at Chicago. I did some more research, and then I met with the vendors again at the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference. And it's pretty slick. It's using steam to decontaminate different items. And what we found is, every time we wash our turnout gear, it degrades the gear. So we do a lot of training where we sweat in it, but it may not necessarily take on smoke and heat. So instead of having to wash it in an extractor, we can put it in one of these decontamination units, and it cleans it with steam. You can do that with bedding or N95 masks. It's not for medical grade, but you could still clean everything. But we would open it up to law enforcement. They could bring their body armor, and use that. They like to clean their gear in the summertime because they get pretty smelly. And things along those lines. So we could smell it too.
It only takes all of 2 days.
But it's a pretty neat. So the long-term plan, hopefully, if this works right, is to get one for each station. But we're going to buy one now and try it, see how it works. If it works as advertised.
Yeah, even if that's, it's, and as I looked at the picture, I thought, okay, is this gonna be tough enough to handle? But I bet if it works, there's probably a bigger one and something larger, if need be in the future.
Right, yeah, and this is actually they work in commercial kitchens, this company, they started out in the restaurant business and hotel industry, and they've now reached out to public safety.
Think of that. And you have one of his kitchens next month.
It would match.
I'll stop by and drop off my daughter's shed guards and you can clean them.
It is stainless steel, yeah.
Yeah, it would match. But yeah, they're pretty neat.
They're using these in hospitals more and more too, for sure. And
It looks weird.
what's an average uniform? I mean, where are we talking?
For the turnout gear, you're looking at close to $3,000.
Right, each one.
Yeah, it would really save, hopefully make them last longer.
They last longer, and then they also will keep the crew safer because it just, every time you wash it in an extractor, it just doesn't have the same level of protection as it has when it was new.
So bloodborne pathogens and all the rest of that stuff, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it's great. So, pretty cool, actually. See, the schools pay off all the time, don't they? Right. Wow, good for you, thanks. Is there a motion to have the chief purchase this decontamination unit?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah, very cool. Anything else, chief? Nothing from the road department tonight?
Not, sir.
All fine?
No good.
You had to sit through this whole meeting and nothing to talk about.
That department.
Don't feel too bad for him, he was late all weekend.
Okay, I think next we're moving on to administration. Matt?
We have Resolution 5385 in front of you tonight, a resolution allowing Township Administrator to enter into an agreement to use right-of-way of unimproved Eshman Avenue and dispensing with the second reading. This is for Mr. Oak's request, going back a few days. We asked Warren County originally to be a party to the agreement, and upon legal review from Warren County, they declined the opportunity to be a party to that agreement, and our council opined that, fine, we can just carry on and do it, and put it away. So that's the clip of the story.
Yeah. Well, we've already agreed to the process and this step in the process, and unless somebody has some reason not to, I'd say.
Did they have a reason why they didn't want to?
Depending upon what day you asked them, it was about a 180-degree flip from the initial reaction to where they landed after fully considering it and counseling with Mr. Pacheco. The original answer was, why does the township feel that they have the authority to do it? And then it finally landed up on, we're not a party to this, it's not an improved right-of-way, so what do we care? Which, by the way, is the latter is the correct answer on for the reflection. So.
Got it.
Sure. Is there a motion to approve 5385 and dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Then we have 5386, a resolution approving participation in Region 14 governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding and dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency.
Yeah, so the Region 14 governance that was established through the past few months basically sets up it reduces paper the structure for this particular settlement, and an awful lot of lawyers are involved in it, and that's why it's taking so long, and it's awfully complicated. But we've selected some of the representatives for it. they're ready to have all of the subject communities and all the subject expertise areas accept formally the governance structure for it. So that's what this is about.
Anybody have any questions on that about 5386? If none, is there a motion to approve and dispense with the second reading and declare an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard? Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Anything else at this time? Police Department, recommendation to purchase the cardio equipment for the new building fitness room from Legends Fitness at a cost of $12,000.
Yeah, it's the remaining items that tops it off in there now. Legend Fitness is actually the bid winner of the previous physical fitness equipment, so it allows them to bring it out at the same time, and they were a little bit cheaper, so I would recommend that we use Legend Fitness.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this purchase?
What is the cardio equipment?
It's got some treadmills and ellipticals. Commercial grade.
And this is the last of our purchases for the fitness room?
It should be, yes. I don't think there's anything else, maybe a small odd item here or there. And part of this is being funded by our loan from last year and so forth. It's being subsidized by some of that grant money. So.
Did I pass that already? Is there a motion to direct the chief to purchase this cardio fitness equipment?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And we have a recommendation to purchase video monitors and wiring services for the new building from Elite.
Yeah, Elite has the winning bid, and they're also our internal IT contractor on some of the previous wiring stuff. This is some additional items that they looked at that needed to be put in, so this is their bid for that. Yeah, I think that this kind of hopefully gets us toward the end of some of this self-funded stuff that we had built into our budget this year. So this is a budgeted item, was self-funding part of that wiring stuff, and they're starting to prepare us to do the wiring now. The tray system's going in, and they're trying to get rushed in to get some of that stuff done. So.
Is there a motion to purchase this wiring service for the new building?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. And Jeffrey, you want to do that under staff updates, or you want to do it before the consent agenda?
I was going to do more input on Eshman Avenue, so I'm good, sir.
Very good.
Mr. Clark took it all.
Thank you.
I know, it was hard to believe, I didn't want to keep talking, so my fault.
He stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. It's all good.
So we're good, sir.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Any staff updates?
One item, we had to have Oswald tap the brakes today. They were starting to install the ceiling grid in the office, part of the new building up there. But the wiring tray is only about half done, and the computer's dug. They have to run miles of cable in there before they install the ceiling grid. So it wasn't a miscommunication. We certainly let Oswald know, and our owner, architect, contractor, meeting 2 weeks ago that wasn't going to happen. But for whatever reason, somebody had started hanging that drop ceiling. Luckily, Doug saw it and came right down here to me and told me about it, so I was able to jump on the phone real quick and found him out.
You tell them they can pour concrete in the rest of the building instead?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's only been about like a month or two since that should have been done. So that did happen.
Good catch.
That's Doug. Doug's the one that caught that. That would have been a real pain in the butt to work around. That's all I have.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, well, that's it.
It's his turn, but